Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to our very first Sports Crib of 2025. I see some of our familiar faces are down here. Well, actually, some very unfamiliar faces here on the Sports Crib. I do see them every Saturday on our fantasy sportscast. And I'm talking about Reggie. I also see Bo down there. Reggie, how you doing this evening?
Always a pleasure, my friend. Always a pleasure. How are you?
Hey, every day is a good day. And I see,
I hear
and
you.
I see Bo is there.
What's up,
Bo,
buddy?
how you doing, Bo?
How's it going, gentlemen? Good to see you
What's
guys.
going on?
Yeah, Bo's. Have you been catching any of Bo's shows, Reggie? He's
I don't
been
catch any of anybody's shows. I don't. I
Yeah,
barely
right.
catch this show. I barely catch being on this show. Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Oh man, yeah. Well, but it's always a good time having you on the show, Reg. Like I say, most of the people, if they tune in on Saturdays, they'll see you on the fantasy show.
Yeah.
Bo, your New Year's started off quite well. I see on your show.
Yeah. I mean, just plugging away as always.
That's all you can do, Bo. That's all you can do.
Right?
Just plug away, man.
Just plugging away. We did get a dog though. We did get a dog.
Oh, there you go. What kind of dog?
I got a shepherd.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, how's the house training going?
I mean, about how you'd expect for a dog that I've had for 2 days.
Oh man, yeah. 2 days in, so we're about 48 hours into the said training, basically.
Yeah, you know it. Yeah. So she's a 2-year-old stray. So there's some habits you got to break, and
Don't worry, she'll have you trained in no time. Don't worry.
you're right. Yeah, she's definitely been bored today because today is my busiest on-air day, and so she's been hanging out with me. But she's just like, "What are we doing? This is boring. You're just yammering at a screen. I don't know what's going on."
Well, how's the weather outside, Bo?
Man, goodness.
Actually, not raining today.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
right. I mean, it's winter in Seattle. That's what we do. But no, it's actually a nice day today. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, though. So don't get too many of them in a row. See, you guys down there, you guys are cheating. You don't get all the rain. Although you guys got some fires down there.
Well, they do get fires down, and I'm not really a fan of that. I've seen a few of those on TV.
There are some fires up there. That's Los Angeles County, and up around that area. Yeah, LA's on fire again.
Wow.
Saying that it's the driest that it's been in 100 years. But hey, somehow they find something to burn every year. I don't know. I mean, you think all the, you think by now, but hey, our hearts goes out to those people up there in that area. Most of them have homes that we can't afford, but still,
still in our thoughts, guys. Your mentions and your are in our thoughts. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, we're thinking about how your ashes are more than our house cost.
Right. That pile of ashes is definitely all of our houses. Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It was kind of crazy though. I was looking at there was a McDonald's that was burning, right? And so there's this video of the signs out front. You can't see the building or anything, but it's just the signs. And it's middle of the night, heavy wind, right? And the half of the McDonald's sign was like melted off and sparks are flying and there's fire all around it. And I was watching it, and this lets you know that we all have way too much screen time. The first thing I thought of is like, that's got to be the loading screen for like Call of Duty or something.
Yeah, see, yeah. yeah. But hey, it's only like 8 days into the year. We've already had a couple tragedies already.
Yep.
And hopefully a lot of these people will be able to use sports, take their mind off some of their problems. Right. As of now, they're still scheduled to have the games at SoFi. So life goes on in Los Angeles, but
it sounds like they're thinking about Vegas, though. If they have to move it sounds like they might go to Vegas.
Gee.
At least they have a pivot. At least there's a plan there. At least there's a plan.
Well, the Raiders aren't using it, so
yeah, right. It's available. We all know that much.
Yeah,
available for use.
and it's a beautiful facility. I mean,
it is a nice place, man.
Sure. I mean, but both of them are relatively brand new, so either one would be a great venue.
And to be fair, not everyone can use sports to get over their tragedies, because I mean the Jets are still owned by the same people. So
right. And Shane is still staying in the Giants too for your other New York fans. So just you thought Joe Shane was getting fired, he's not. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, but before we start talking about some of the pro stuff, we got some college games to talk about here. I was trying to see where if David gotten the link, but if you guys got the link, he should have gotten it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was able to get it. I sent a message out and asked Dave if he got the link.
Well, anyway, let's hope that we can get him up to speed when he comes back. But Bo, this new NIL stuff here, they say that there's a new era after this NIL stuff is all over with. Bo, what's with this new NIL or post NIL stuff?
So I guess I'm not sure exactly which one you're talking about, because I mean it's still the NIL for now. I know they keep talking about getting paid from basically the schools.
Yeah, that's what I read too.
Yeah, so I mean, but as it sits today, it's still the NIL. I think they're going to have a hard time getting the money from the schools to the students. I think that probably has a few more years of trying to figure out how to legally make that work. So I don't know if we're in the post NIL yet.
I feel like even if it is post NIL, it's kind of the same. We're calling it different things, but it's going to be the same thing. Students getting paid to play sports in college. Whether it comes from, I guess, the school. Because you guys think about this, and Deion talked about this as well. He said a lot of these players, they have name, image, likeness, and they're not representing anything. They're not selling a car dealership. They're not selling cars. Right. They're not doing anything, which is kind of in theory what it's for, I guess, like in air quotes. So I'm kind of with you there in the sense of like it may not be called that, but I mean, who knows what we're moving to? But it seems like players are still getting played, and I think that the transfer portal situation needs to be fixed, in my opinion. I think that needs to be addressed.
That is a dumpster fire. The fact that you can enter the portal before your bowl games is ridiculous. Completely asinine.
Right.
That is the dumbest thing ever on both sides. Like, one, why would you want to leave before you play your bowl game? And two, can I just transfer into a bowl game? Like, the trophy's the same either way, right?
Right. You're on the team as they're preparing to play their championship games.
I mean, you didn't have to mess with any of those practices. I mean,
that's crazy.
The worst thing about the NCAA is they are, and I've said this on other shows, they are a ready, shoot, aim organization. Like, they just shove stuff out there and then they're like, oh yeah, that didn't work out. It's like, well, yeah, no kidding. So yeah, it's they have a lot of things to work out. The portal is probably the biggest concern. The NIL will ultimately kind of start to work itself out, but the portal, you have an opening before the bowl games, you have an opening after the spring game, and then it's open into like the second week of the season. So
Yeah,
I mean,
we
how do you recruit? I mean,
That's a good question.
we
Good
kind of
question,
talked
man.
about that, on our last show a couple weeks ago. Like you said, the portal. Are we going to have to modify this portal so that, like you said, Bo, guys don't even have to play; they can transfer into a bowl game. It makes no sense whatsoever. Unless you're the guy that's
I'm gonna go get me a
unless
natty
you're the
real
guy
quick.
if you got that's transferring, then that's
Absolutely.
fine. Oregon, it's a little too late now, but they've already got a commitment from who's that bowl guy from Texas A&M?
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name offhand, but
Yeah, but
yeah, I thought it was crazy because it was before they played their bowl game.
Yeah, so it was, like you said, it seems like this is the thing that's really getting out of hand. But I see Davis joined us.
Nice.
Ah, there he is.
Hey,
There he is.
There's the man. There's the man.
Braving the frigid temperatures here to join us on this fine Wednesday.
That's right.
He's down there in Maryland. I think that cyclone just changed a coast.
Well, we got like 6 or 8 inches of snow, and they're expecting more Saturday.
Yeah, that's down here too. We're already full blown panic in Atlanta here. So yeah, absolutely. Panic is ensuing down here in Atlanta. Well, even the thought of snow induces panic down here.
There you go.
Let me turn on my TV and see if there's any snow there, because there better not be none in my backyard.
That might be ashes from that horrible fire
floating down from LA is what he said.
Yeah, right.
Well, so far we haven't had that wave down. It's about 110 miles. So right now we're still bright skies. Beaches are open. It's first of the year, but it's still San Diego. There's people out there, believe me. Dave, it's been a while, and we were talking about the misfortunes of those houses that are burning up there in LA and whatnot, and then we started talking about the NIL and the portal, but doing all that, we missed Sue's Corner.
Yeah.
Now is the time for it. First show of the year. We can't have that, man.
All right. We got one. Sue has one.
All right. Well, bring it on.
It's kind of football related, but here I go. Sue's Corner. Dave and I are big fans of the shows that Taylor Sheridan does, like the Yellowstone series and the newest edition, Landman, which is set in the West Texas oil country. As you may have read, Jerry Jones had a cameo on the latest episode of Landman. It's not his first foray into television, but it is definitely considered his best. Wow. He did some surprising good acting, even tearing up and talking about how important family is and how working with his kids is his greatest achievement. I'm no Cowboys or Jones fan, but I was sold on what he was saying, so it prompted me to look him up and see how much of his speech was true. Jerry did indeed make money as a landman, as an oil man in Arkansas rather than in California that he claimed in the TV show. His father was an extremely successful businessman, and after Jerry had many business missteps, brought him into the insurance business, where Jerry made a boatload of money. His success eventually led him to buy the Cowboys in 1989. What is accurate in his speech on the show is how he's brought his children into his business. He has 3 children. Steven is the Cowboys' chief operating officer, executive vice president, and director of player personnel. Charlotte is the Cowboys' executive vice president and chief brand officer. And Jerry Jr. is the Cowboys' chief sales and marketing officer / vice president. Jerry is a polarizing figure. I'm sure you both love and hate him in Dallas, depending on if you have a successful season or not. You tend to lean on the side of hate if you don't live in Dallas, for sure. Mainly because he's an incredible self-promoter who puts himself out there publicly and commercially, which makes him a much bigger target than, for example, a low-key owner like Art Rooney. He is smart, successful. Even with the boost he got from his father's success, he still could have screwed it all up, but he didn't. When he failed, he pivoted, and that's admirable. Even back in his early days when he had to borrow money from Jimmy Hoffa's Teamsters Union to try to start a failed pizza franchise. But I guarantee you, even if you aren't any kind of an NFL fan, you will know Jerry Jones' name and know he's the owner of the Cowboys. He just lives large. If you don't watch Landman, it's worth checking out his poignant soliloquy on YouTube. So that's Sue's Corner. So I don't know if you watched Landman. It stars Billy Bob Thornton. And, it's about the West Texas oil country in modern days. And in this episode, he's one of the guys, John Hamm, is also in the series, and he's kind of like on his deathbed in a hospital bed, and Jerry Jones comes in to visit him because he's a fellow oil man and gives this speech as an actor. So it was like about maybe a 2-minute appearance on the show, but it was kind of funny to see Jerry Jones actually on a television show acting, and he did a pretty credible job.
Yeah.
Actually a pretty good series.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched a couple episodes. I haven't been keeping up with it. Actually, I was more of a Yellowstone guy, and I was kind of like that's how I got into it. But
as glowing of a review as that was for Jerry Jones, you would have thought this is being broadcast on Fox.
Man, hey, they speaking of which, they've been in the news a little bit lately. We won't pivot there, but I'm just gonna say, there's been some issues over there at FS1 here, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying, where do you sign up for that kind of elevation? It sounds like a quick path that I'm taking.
Hey, listen, you're not going to steal the joy of this show, Bull Crouch. No, don't try to steal our joy here. First show of the week, our first show of the year here, man.
First show of the year,
right, man.
Hey, it's the first late show. It's the first late show.
See, Mr. Carroll is here to join us. How you doing, Bill?
It has been an interesting 2025 already. I'll say that much. A lot has happened. And so, yes, Fox has some FS1 has some activities going on. Yeah, some stuff has happened there. I delved a little bit into that case, and yes, there's a lot happening. A lot.
Yeah. We were just talking a little bit about the new NIL policies and so forth. But Reg, I know we only have you and Bo for a limited amount of time. So, Reg, I got to ask you. It's been a year since Nick Saban has left. Have standards changed under the new guy? What's going on there?
No, not necessarily. I think that all of and I'll probably keep repeating this on the show. Ever since NIL and the transfer portal became a part of college football, I think all of college football is changing. All of it's going to be changing over the next couple. If you had the expectation that your team was going to stay on top in this new environment that we're at, there's a reason why some of these coaches are getting out. Like, I want no part of this, because they know that it's a sea change. And I think if you, in going through this sea change, if the team has 3 losses, if we continue where we are, 2 to 3 losses going through this sea change, I'll live with it. It's not, we're not owed championships. And I think like our loss to Michigan showed that we weren't really owed an appearance here, so it is what it is. We lost 3 games. I mean, maybe Nick Saban would have won us another 1 or 2. It is what it is. I don't feel like, I don't feel like the world's on fire right now. Now, which is very funny, but let me tell you how sports works. Let that be 1 more game at 4 losses. The world's on fire. Absolutely, get this guy out of here at 4 losses. Get him out of here. But 3 losses, hey, I mean, we'll let him. I'll let him live for another year or so here.
Bill, what do you think about the coach at Wisconsin, Mr. Feichel? Is he on the hot seat next year?
Not yet. Well, first of all, Luke Fickell, who of course I remember him as a teammate. We talk about Vrabel, right? They were teammates at Ohio State. Very, very undersized, but really good defensive tackle himself. I still have my scouting notes on Luke Fickell. And he's a guy that probably could have knocked around for a while on the outer edges of professional football if he wanted to, but did not, went into coaching pretty quickly, has long been a really respected coach at multiple locations, was a terrific defensive coordinator at, of course, his alma mater, the Ohio State University. Parlays that into taking Cincinnati to, a national, to a playoffs. And then from there, ironically, chasing resources and probably money, goes to Wisconsin. I still believe if he just sort of hung on at Cincinnati, he would have eventually gotten both the resources and the money, but whatever. Now they are a Big 12 team. And I think his path to winning a championship out of the Big 12 would not have been significantly more difficult than one he's going to have to try to win one in the current landscape, at least in the Big 10. Because Wisconsin, old Wisconsin, right? The Barry Alvarez and even Brett Bielema version were essentially the NDSU of the Big 10, right? We're going to have fullbacks and tight ends and probably both on the field about 90% of the time. We are going to throw the ball when we absolutely have to. And mostly we're going to run the ball down your MFing throat. To remind people that when Mr. Austin Genty, made the run at Barry Sanders, he obviously didn't quite make it, even once you factor in, obviously, the extra games. But the person he passed to get close was Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon had a 2,157, something like that, yard rushing season, once again in 14 games. But that tells you about Wisconsin football. And he's trying to make changes. They still want to run the football, but he's trying to modernize Wisconsin football on the fly. But he has to fight uphill because of some of the things we just talked about, because of NIL, because of the same things that Nebraska is going through, right? It used to be that Nebraska was the only game in town, in essence, if you grew up anywhere within about a 700-mile radius of the campus and you were good at football. Missouri was like plan B or C if you're from that part of the world. But Nebraska was plan 1A and probably B. NDSU at that time wasn't yet, an enormous powerhouse. They were in fact, I think they were still a Division II program if we go back to the early days of Bob Devaney and that bunch. But no longer does the gravity of the name of Wisconsin and Nebraska draw all the kids from a certain part of the world anymore. You don't automatically get all the best kids from Nebraska going to Nebraska. Now, Nebraska, of course, has a problem being Nebraska. Wisconsin has at least some, slightly more major population centers in it and near it. But now they're competing against even Illinois, no offense to Wisconsin, is a little more attractive in the NIL era, right, than Wisconsin is in the NIL era. And you're also fighting against essentially the new Big Ten, which has California teams and all kinds of other teams in it, that now you can grow up in Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, the footprint of Wisconsin, and be at a California school and still be in the conference you sort of grew up wanting to play. And it changes everything, right? It changes everything. And then
I want to get Bo in here. Bo, Wisconsin is one school, but we were talking about parity. What's going on here? We have a college football championship with no SEC teams in it.
Woo!
So unfortunate, guys. It's so unfortunate. Unfortunate world we live in, guys.
I mean, it seems like they're going to have to do something with that first round bye because it looked like they were all set up for failure, not having played a football game in like a month. Because all of them came out flat. So that being said, I'm not mad that there's no SEC schools. Remember, I'm a Husky fan. We were the land of Pac-12. Pac-2 now, but whatever.
Pac-12 will ride again.
You say the
maybe, but we're Big Ten now, so
no looking back, Bo. No looking back.
That's right. Big Ten. We're the Pac-12 is like LA. We're just burning it to the ground.
Right. Man. Goodness gracious. Goodness. Savage.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of these playoffs. I wanted to get Don in here because they're in the playoffs. But our first game is actually.
Wait a second, guys. Time out. Isn't Texas what division is Texas?
SEC school.
What Texas? Wait, hold on. Before I don't want it to stand up on these guys here real quick, but there has been a school added to the SEC, and their name is Texas, and they're still there, guys.
Yeah,
we're still playing. Are they still playing?
They are.
Oh, okay. Well, yes. Okay. Well, we are back, guys. Let me step back into that last segment.
Go back.
And we are back. We are back, guys. 2025 SEC football, guys. SEC football, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we're back. I'm just asking Don later for an appreciation of that, man. Like, hey, I have to represent for the Longhorns, man. Somebody have to do it for Don here.
Isn't that move next year, though?
No.
Hey, I'm glad it got there a little bit early. Right when we needed it, Bo. It got there when we needed it.
Well, as I said, our first game is tomorrow night, and we'll have our first finalist. It'll be Notre Dame against Penn State. Dave, you were a little skeptical about Penn State during the season, even though they were ranked. I think when they got to number 4, you didn't, you almost called them I want to say a faker, a charlatan, a ne'er-do-well, and I think we were all, a little, I had asked a question before, did Notre Dame have the easiest path to the finals? So I'll get first, Dave, your take on Penn State and what they need to do to win, and then we'll get you in there, Bo, on Notre Dame and, their surprising ride here to the final.
Yeah, well, one thing, Penn State was very fortunate in the way the brackets came out because both teams that they lost to were in the opposite bracket. Right. And so that was very fortunate for Penn State. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I did say before that I thought that Penn State was overranked. I didn't see them as a top 3 or 4 team. I thought, top 10 team. Didn't necessarily think that they were a top 4 team. So I think, right now, I think if you're a Penn State fan, you should be very, very happy right where they're at. And they have a great opportunity to get into the final because it's an interesting matchup with Notre Dame. You have two teams that have pretty strong defenses, strong running games, and I think for Penn State, the question is going to be is the connection between the quarterback Allar and tight end Tyler Warren, is that going to be enough to short circuit the Notre Dame defense? Because the wide receiving core for Penn State isn't overly strong. Now, they did have the one wide receiver that was getting behind the Boise State secondary, and they paid for it, but they're not necessarily, their wide receiver core isn't real great. It's really the tight end that's the connection. But if you can somehow, this Tyler Warren, as big as a guy he is, he just seems to be able to get open. So that's the key for Notre Dame, is can they shut him down? If they can't, well, then Penn State is maybe able to move the ball because they have a couple decent running backs. But then on the defensive side of the ball, the big question is Abdul Carter, who I believe is going to be a game day decision. They have not said whether he's definitely playing or not. Franklin did say that he expects him to play, that you probably will see stuff on social media, but he said he's going to be a game day decision, which makes me think that he's at least going to play. Even if he's on a snap count, he's going to be on the field. And that's going to be very important for Penn State. And can the defense, the Penn State defense, corral the Notre Dame running game to force Riley Leonard, to see if Riley Leonard can beat him in the air, and that's the formula for their success, is to stop the run and then force Riley Leonard to see if he can win it in the air and take the ball away. And that's the only thing. If they can pressure him like they did to Boise State, but I think that the difficulty for Penn State is that Notre Dame's offensive line is I would expect is going to be a lot better than Boise State's. But to me, that's the key to the success, and it really comes down to like three or four players, and are they successful for Penn State? Now, Penn State's defense is, even with that Abdul Carter, there's still a good. It's still a good defense, but it's not the same. I mean, this guy can play the line. He can be rushing the quarterback. He can be back in coverage. I mean, he's a very beastly option to have out there. So without him, it's not the same. It's still a good defense, but not the same.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd really add to that is I do think Penn State has a good shot to win this because they tend to be a more disciplined team. They are very rarely out of position. And once you get to this point in the year, penalties, out of position, those are the 2 or 3 plays in a game that lose you the game. And it's something that, if you've watched over the last few weeks, is something they've really tightened up to finish the year out. I think just the discipline of the team may be that deciding factor in this game.
Okay. All right. Reggie, you were talking about your Texas and that. Who do you think is under the most pressure to win? Ohio State's coach, Ray Day, or Sarkisian?
I don't think either one should be. I mean, under the most pressure to win. I mean, from an SEC guy, I'm going to say Sarkisian because I'm an SEC guy, and as I see in that last segment, the pressure that I came under for them, even maybe not even being in the playoffs. So I'm hoping that he just brings it home for us, just for their first time. But I don't think that any one of these guys, pressure should be a lot. They were trying to run Ryan Day out of there earlier this year. And look at where the guy's at. So, I mean, pressure should not be following either one of these guys around. I mean, they're literally, a game or two away from winning everything. Pressure is a bit much for me personally.
Yeah, I think Sarkisian just signed a 4-year extension.
Yep, correct.
No pressure for him.
If Day would have lost to Tennessee, he'd have got fired.
Crazy, right? You go from being fired to now. Look at that.
Yep. 2 games. 0 to hero.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill, do you agree with Bo? I think you were here on that show when we asked, if Day lost to Tennessee, would that be the end of Day?
Well, I mean, with the fans, but luckily the fans don't make these decisions. I believe the university believes in Ryan Day, despite what the fans may think and say. Now, I think Reggie put it poignantly. Now you get the 4 losses. Now
you're out of here. Yeah, you're bummed now.
That's a whole different game. Yes, that's right. Now the world's on fire. But if you talk about literally losing one game all year,
Bill, he lost to Michigan 3 years in a row.
That's the thing.
That's
the only thing, in my opinion. That's the only thing.
I don't care if he was undefeated. He lost to Michigan 3 years in a row.
Very aware of that.
Really, from the other side, he could have lost 6 games, but if he beats Michigan, it's still a win.
Correct. Contract extension. You beat Michigan 3 years in a row. Contract extension, man. Absolutely.
I mean, you're always under pressure if you're coaching at Alabama or Ohio State, there's pressure always, right? If you're coaching at any of the top level blue bloods, there's always going to be pressure because you have one of those jobs that is literally a Mount Rushmore coaching job. If you have one of the Mount Rushmore coaching jobs where they expect you to win the national championship or at least play for it every year, yes, there's going to be pressure. Brian Kelly is under pressure, right? Because it's been a minute since they've been in the playoffs. They're asking what the hell's wrong? Why aren't we in the playoffs? So there's always pressure if you're at the top tier blue blood institutions. That by itself carries automatic pressure. Now, if Luke Fickell was at one of those schools, yes, there would be his seat would be quite warm at this point. But for Ryan Day, who has had to replace a legend, as they say, it is very tough just to be the man who follows the man, right? And so when you do that, say as successfully as he has, well, I get it, I know the Michigan thing, blah, blah, blah. And that matters, even to the board of trustees, and the people actually matter, right? The actual athletic administration, that matters. But it's not the life or death thing that it is for the fans who lose their minds collectively and sometimes individually every time they lose to Michigan. I get it. If they lose to Michigan again next year, the cycle will begin again. And then they win the national championship. They're like, oh, okay, we'll give him one more year. I get how it works, right? Once again, I live in Big Ten country. I get to watch the cycle every year. And, in Illinois, we have somewhat more reasonable expectations. Hey, we made a bowl game. Sweet. You won 9 games. Do that twice and you get a contract extension. It's a little different here in Illinois. If you win 9 games at Northwestern, they build a statue. And then hopefully you don't haze kids while you're doing it. But there is a different standard.
People from Northwestern just tuned out.
I know.
Like, I'm out of here.
Once again, once again, shout out to my sister. That's where she went, right? She was there when David Schwimmer and that bunch were at Northwestern.
They'd only be mad at the accuracy, so it doesn't matter.
Yes, they'd be mad at the accuracy. And Northwestern didn't acknowledge he had a football team for decades. So I'm not even really joking when I say that. I went to games during the Francis P. era. You talk about a lonely feeling sitting in Welsh Ryan in those days. But back to what we're talking about. So the fact is that, as was just said, Sarkisian is extremely safe and secure, and he's going to win like crazy. First of all, there's structural advantages to being at the top tier school, in the top tier, maybe the top tier football state in the country. I mean, Georgia's certainly in the fight, and Florida's always going to raise its hand, and California.
Well, Bill, why don't you give us? We're gonna go kind of around the horn here real quick.
Okay.
I got a little time before Reggie and
okay.
the Bo Leave. So let's start with this Ohio State Texas game, which we were just talking about the coaches in that game. Of course, I'm biased. I want Ohio State to now that
Of course.
they've got their revenge on Oregon. I want them to go all the way. I think they're the strongest team there, but that's like I said, that's also a little prejudice on my part. But
Correct.
Bill, why don't you kind of give us a quick breakdown?
Sure. Well, ironically, I'm actually working on that article as we speak. I should hopefully finish it by tomorrow morning, early afternoon. And I won't go as deep as I'm going to go into the actual article, but to me, it comes down to, well, what's the kicking game? Isn't talked about enough, right? Now, unfairly, people are remembering, Brett Auburn's last time they saw him, which was a Strugglesville, but he's a great kicker, generally speaking. And that could be one of the edges because at some point, someone's going to need to kick a long field goal under pressure because that game's going to be a very tight, close game. Special teams, a big return, a blocked kick. That's something like that will turn that game because it'll be a very tight, very close game. I think both quarterbacks will need to not try to do too much, right? Now, we are seeing, I don't know who this Will Howard is, because there was the Will Howard I watched for almost an entire football season. There's the guy I've been watching the last few weeks, who's a whole different dude. This is an entirely different guy. This guy is making tight window throws like a boss. I mean, and fearless. He's playing fearless football. The guy I saw against Oregon, the guy I saw against Michigan, the guy I saw against, and even some of the games that they won, was essentially a better version of Stephen McGee, people remember Stephen McGee from his days at Texas A&M, right? Big, strong, tough kid, but not a guy you would expect to win the game throwing the football. In fact, quite the opposite. If he continues to play like that, I don't see how they lose to anybody in college football. I just don't know if he can keep doing it. Like, if he can keep doing it, then yes, you're right, James, you will be very happy. I just don't know because it seems like how do you get that much better that late into your college football career? I watched him at Kansas State. He's not new to me. I've been watching Will Howard for a long time. I've never seen him play this well for a sustained period of time. But if he continues to do it, I don't see how they lose. Quinn Ewers obviously is an even more known prospect, right? He was the first $1 million NIL baby, right? There was this huge bidding war for him, and ironically, Ohio State won that bidding war. And then, that might work out there for him. But he's found his home. He's playing at a super high level. He's getting healthier. Was banged up through a lot of the season. But to me, the thing that will really determine this is the interior of the two lines, both offense and defense. If that middle gap, right, that center guard area on offense and that D-tackle area on defense, who wins it, right? If Texas wins that, and they have some real talent on both sides of the ball there, that might be able to overcome Will Howard even if he continues to play incredible football. And then the reverse, right? If Ohio State wins that battle on the interior of each line, offense and defense, and Will Howard plays like that, not only will they win by a couple scores. I just need to see Will Howard do it one more time, and then I guess I'll be convinced. He's so different from the guy I saw earlier in the season. It's just, I feel like I just need to keep seeing it. Like, when this person improves that much that late in their career, it just throws me. Like, who are you? Where was this guy before? But
what have you seen, Bo?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it'll come down a little bit to which Ewers are we going to see, right? And then there is an element of Ohio State coming off a big emotional win. And in sports in general, not just football, after a big emotional win, there's usually a letdown. So if there was a time that Ohio State comes up short, it could be this week. So I actually like the Longhorns in this matchup. They had to overcome a tight battle. They're going to need Ewers to play a fantastic game. But they're a good enough team. They can take Ohio State down.
Reggie, I know that sounds good to you listening to Bo.
Yeah, man, let's go Longhorns, man. That's all I got. Let's go Longhorns. SEC football.
Dave,
Found out they were SEC 2 seconds ago, but let's go.
Yeah, man. Hey, welcome to the fold. Welcome to the fold, guys.
You got any thoughts on this game, Dave?
Well, I mean, I kind of like Ohio State, and if Penn State somehow beats Notre Dame, I would love to see a Penn State Ohio State final, just to see if Penn State can get the monkey off their back, which has been Ohio State's always had their number for so long. So I would love to see that matchup. Probably the rest of the nation wouldn't, but for me, I would like that. But if it's an Ohio State Penn State final, I think that people will start questioning the whole how they came up with the brackets. Frankly, but
the whole process is
yes.
questioned.
But I would love to see that final, for me personally.
Hey, Chicago finally got the Packers off their back, so maybe it could happen for Penn State this year.
Yeah, I think your national championship is actually Ohio State Longhorns. Like that is before the national title game is even played. Your national championship is probably in that game.
The Quinn Ewers revenge game.
Interesting.
I do give you the I hate the bracket system. This isn't basketball. Let's do a reseed just like they do in the NFL.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea too. That probably will never be implemented, but we'll see. So let's jump into some quick NFL here while I still got you guys here.
Hoping we would get to this before I get out of here, because I've been itching to talk about this.
Well, then I'll put you out your misery real quick, then, Reggie.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
What the hell happened here? I mean, are we looking Penix next year? What's going on? Around Atlanta. What's the rumors? What do you think's going to happen here?
It seems like the fan base is pretty satisfied with what they've seen from Penix the last couple games. So and it was kind of like the plan when Penix was drafted. People kind of felt this was the way that things were going to go. They didn't know where their timeline fell, but they felt like this was what was going to happen, as you see with a lot of players that kind of start the year behind somebody, but you just know for a fact they will be starting down the line. But what Kirk, we were hoping that we at least would get to the whole full year for one full season. There's definitely was that hope that we wouldn't see Penix at least this year. But hey, at least he doesn't like he sucks, and I'm happy about that.
Well,
the rumor is Kirk Cousins isn't very good.
I mean, I think Kirk might get some opportunities. One thing to remember in Atlanta is if Younghoe Koo makes a couple of those kicks, Kirk would never been benched as a quarterback. Kirk would have still been the quarterback. We would have had a winning record. We would have won one or two more games if Younghoe had made a couple of those kicks down the line. So it wasn't all on Kirk, but I think the Raiders game was a bridge too far. To a Max Crosby-less Raiders team was a bridge too far. So people already wanted him out. It's kind of where things were going to go. Before I get out of here, I did want to touch on this Lamar Jackson question before I leave, James. I don't know if you were ready for me to do that, though.
Go ahead. Well, let me get Bo. I think I still got you guys for about 10 minutes, close to it, something like
Absolutely.
that. Okay. So, Bo, what's up with Geno Smith? He led the Seahawks to a successful season, but
10 wins for Geno. Bo, 10 wins.
Yeah, I mean, but there's still the kind of rumors of unrest. What's going on up there, Kirk? I mean, Bo.
The Geno hate is hilarious to me, and I'm not a Geno advocate by any means, but he just reset for the second time in 3 years as a starter, right? the Seahawks single season yardage, right? He set it for completions. He set it for completion percentage behind a bottom 3 offensive line. Like, how much more do you want this guy to do?
We want to see more, Bo. We want to see more from this guy.
I mean, I don't know what else can this guy do? And then, there's the knock of, well, he doesn't have a ton of he doesn't have a ton of thrown touchdowns. Well, yeah, because when you get in the red zone, the Seahawks run it. So you know what happens to quarterbacks when you run a touchdown in? Yeah, they don't get that one. It's weird. So
we've been spoiled by Josh Allen and Lamar. I mean, the tush push. You let you run it. You let your running back run it down to the 1 yard line, and then you push the quarterback in.
Yeah, Gino ain't that dude. You will break his spine. Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like they're calling for them to let him go and whatever, and it's like, okay, that's fine to say on its face. Who are you going to get that's better, right?
Kirk Cousins.
Russell Wilson might be available next year.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got Atlanta on line 1 too. If you do want to talk, we definitely will.
Did you hear that spot about the offensive line? Kirk could be on an aid card. That dude get a ride home in an ambulance. So that would not be the route. No, I mean, at the end of the day, say you got rid of him for whatever reason. Sam Howell's not the guy, right? So that means you don't have the guy in-house. There's 2 quarterbacks in this draft. Okay, well, they're going to be picking 20 roughly. So that's not a thing. Your free agent market. What free agent would you say that's out there is better than Gino?
You might have Russell Wilson out there.
Dang, where did he get Russell? Like,
no.
Justin Fields.
I mean, I think Wilson. He only missed 6 starts, and he had roughly half the yardage that Gino had.
There's no Geno Smiths out there. It's just, that's just fan talk. There's no, that production isn't just laying around out there. So
that's what I'm saying.
Good luck with that.
That's what I'm saying is you're just not going to get he finished 4th as far as yardage just for the season in quarterbacks as a whole. I don't know where you're going to get that for the $30 million that they're going to pay him next year. That's just not a real thing. So I don't know why there's so much Geno hate and get him out of here. And it's like, I mean, I guess you want to win 4 games. I don't know what we're talking about.
I noticed you said 30 million and not 60 million. So
exactly.
So just for that price, to me, that makes him viable.
Bargain, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Bang for the buck. You can't beat it.
Okay, Reggie, I'm going to let you run this question off real quick. We're talking about does Lamar Jackson, his 4,000 yards passing and 900 plus yards rushing, does that give him this year's MVP, or do you think that the award is still up for grabs?
Okay. So I like both Josh Allen and Lamar because those are the only 2 guys for me. That is, even though I do think that Bill had mentioned Jared Goff and I think Sam Darnold as being honorable mentions, and I would for sure co-sign that. But for me, it's a 2-man race for me. It's Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Now, while we were talking before, guys, I looked this up. I already kind of knew this because of the historic pace that Lamar has been on. And believe me, I want to hate on it as much as some of the others, but as a Steelers fan, I want to hate on it. I was like, this is Josh's year. And then December happened. It's Lamar's year again, ladies and gentlemen. It is Lamar's year again. And I brought up stats. I'm not sure if you guys can see this as a visual aid. I'm not sure if you guys can see on my screen. I'm cheating here. But the shaded area where you see Lamar Jackson is where his stats are better than Josh Allen's, which is almost every single one, ladies and gentlemen. Every single one. So What are we really talking about here? If we can just give it to Josh Allen to just give it, but at this point, we just literally be giving it to the guy. Not only is he better than Josh Allen, he's better than Lamar Jackson. The last 2 times Lamar Jackson won this award, he's better than that. How do you not give it to the guy? How do you not give it to the guy? It was really making my blood boil at a certain point. I had to get it off here. And I'm very happy you let me do that, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's much better in the pocket. He's a much better pocket passer, and Derrick Henry has certainly helped. That was probably the best free agent signing all over was Derrick Henry.
Shout out to the Cowboys. Shout out to the Cowboys.
Did anybody forget that I said 4,000 yards passing?
Yeah.
4,000 yards.
This year is phenomenal at the quarterback position. If you watch this sport, at the quarterback position, this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. And the completion percentage at almost 67% while he's doing it.
Yep.
Ridiculous. I don't see how you give it to anybody else. I just don't see how you do it.
The reason Josh Allen will get it is because of Derrick Henry.
But James Cook is pretty good. For people who want to say that, James Cook is not a bum. And James Cook has more touchdowns, I want to say, than Derrick Henry. If people want to put that out there, it's not like he's playing with just anybody back there.
You're not wrong. But because he won it last year, and even though his numbers are great, and I think he should win it.
His numbers are better. Not just great. They're better in every category.
It literally across the board, they're better. But the thing is we all know the MVP has nothing to do with stats. It is a voter's game. And also, the wins do matter, right? And which is why Joe Burrow's not in the conversation, because his numbers are off the charts too. He just doesn't have a defense. So the MVP is such a laughable award at this point because it doesn't really get dictated by stats, even though they pretend it does. It's just kind of we feel like it's Josh Allen's year. It's like the years that Michael Jordan didn't win MVPs.
For sure, Mike could have won for a ton of years.
Right? So at the end of the day, it's a voting thing. It's why Saquon would have never had a shot. Like he could have broke Dickerson's record, probably still wouldn't have won.
Yeah. All right, guys, I want to get your predictions real quick on the scores, and then I'll let you out of here. Bo, let's see. What first game on Saturday? You got the Chargers -3 visiting the Texans. The over/under is 42.5. Who you got, Bo?
Yeah, I have the Chargers. I have them to cover. They the 42.5 is I don't know that I would bet on that because the Texans probably aren't going to score a lot. One of the things that people don't talk enough about is, depending on the metric, the Chargers have a top 2 defense.
Yep.
And that Texans team is backing into these playoffs. They have not played great coming down the stretch. They won their division, which, I feel like the local high school might have been able to do. So you can't feel too great about that. So, at the end of the day, I got the Chargers covering that 3-point spread. And that 42 feels about right because I think the Chargers could probably hang about 30 of them on their own.
What do you got? Who you got, Reg?
I got to put out a disclaimer here that I suck at this. And last time that we did this, I don't know if I got any of these right. And I think I was the very last person. So I'm not sure why anybody will listen to anything that I say when it comes in regard to this. But I'm going to just say stuff. Because you asked me. But I need you to know that I'm just saying stuff. I just need you to know that. All right. So I like the Chargers because I do like the Chargers. That's real. I really do like the Chargers. I like the Chargers all year. Because of their defense. And I've always liked Justin Herbert, and their defense is phenomenal. I like teams playing good defense this time of the year. So I'm going to take the Chargers. When it comes to the over/under 42.5, I don't know. I mean, okay. Let's say under. Let's say under. Do I have to say like a number, like a score?
No.
Okay, let's just go with the under. Let's just go with the under.
I got Bo as an under too. Right, okay. 42.
Yeah.
No. That feels about right because the Texans aren't going to move the ball very well.
Okay, Reggie, the second game is the Steelers. They're getting 9.5. They're going to the
Disrespectful.
Ratbirds' house. The over
That's
under
almost
is
10 points.
43.5. Who you got, Reg?
Oh, come on. Come on. You know who I got. I'm gonna say the Steelers. Like, I have no objectivity here. The Steelers. I don't care if it was. I don't care if it was 14. The Steelers, baby. I got the Steelers.
Okay, who you got? Bo?
Let me take the over on that, Dave. David, give me the over on that. On those.
It's
those points.
43.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the over?
Okay. Give me the over on that.
So I'm actually going to go the same way, but for like actual reasons.
Yes, I like to hear that. I like to hear something to talk to my stuff.
I have the Ravens winning outright, but I do have the Steelers to cover, and I'll take the over here. I think Wilson's going to be able to get in the end zone a couple of times, but the Ravens still win overall.
Okay. Bo, Sunday, the Broncos, they're getting 8.5 from the Bills. The over-under is 46.5.
So as much as I like the Broncos, for the way that they've battled through and gotten better throughout the season, Bo Nix has kind of come into it a little bit. I do have the Bills winning this. It's in Buffalo. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. There's potentially snow. So I'm going to take the under 8.5. I feel like it's too much for a game like that. So I'm going to go with the Broncos to cover, the Bills to win, and the under.
Okay. Reggie.
It's crazy because I do like the Bills, but I don't love the Bills. I feel like that Broncos team is feisty. I don't love them. I don't love it. But I do the cover 8.5. No, I'll take the Broncos in 8.5 for sure. But I do think the Bills win the game. And that's the part I don't love. I don't love that. If they go in there and the Broncos go in there and win, it won't be crazy to me. It's not like they're coming from Florida. They play in Colorado.
Yeah.
So I will take I'm going to take the Broncos to cover, and I'm going to go on let's go under 46.5.
Okay. The Packers are getting 4.5, playing the Eagles, Reggie, and the over-under is 44.5.
Is Hurts out of concussion protocol? Has he cleared for sure?
Well, he's back to practice.
Yeah, he's practicing.
He'll clear.
Okay.
He'll clear.
All right. Packers. I like the Eagles to win this outright. 44.5. I like the over on the 40. Oh man, Eagles defense though, man. I don't know. Eagles defense is crazy.
They've been playing good the last month though.
Keep in mind going into this game, Jordan Love has a hurt elbow, and Willis hurt his thumb. So it very well could be a third string quarterback coming into this game at some point.
Oh man,
right. And
you got to take the under on that 44.5, right?
Has a torn ACL on top of that.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal for the Packers at the worst time. Brutal for the
Packers
Packers at the worst time, man. That's brutal. Okay, so yeah, definitely Eagles there. Over under 44. I'm gonna take the under on that.
I think Bo already told us.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Eagles. I got Eagles to cover and the under.
The Commanders, Bo, getting 3, playing at the Bucks, and the over-under is 50.5.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, this is another one where I don't love the way Washington is getting in, right? Like they're backing into the playoffs as well. They haven't played great football coming down the stretch. The Bucks are a scrappy team. I mean, Baker's been playing out of his mind. I like the Bucks to win. I mean, they're 3-point favorites at home, so that means Vegas doesn't know either. since home field advantage is 3 points. Over under a 50
and a half.
Man, that is a monster line.
No defense being played today, ladies and gentlemen.
Right? I'm gonna go with the under, I guess. This could be a 60-point game, though.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. You can get to like 55, 58 easily, right?
Exactly. So I'm begrudgingly taking the under. And I have the Bucks winning. Yeah.
Okay, what do you got, Reg?
I like the Commanders in this game just because I like the Commanders. I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels, what they're doing down there. But I also respect a lot of respect for the Bucks. Even though they are in our division, we don't have the same kind of hatred I do for the Saints as I do the Bucks. A lot of respect for that organization down there in Tampa Bay. So, I mean, the fact that it's this close from a Vegas standpoint is understandable. It wouldn't surprise me if the Bucks won, but I like the Commanders. I'm gonna take Commanders, and I'm going to. I'm gonna take the over. Let's jump the over. Let's just jump out there since I don't know what I'm talking about anyway. Just jump out there. This is the time when I'm ignorant to everything to take all the swings. Like, remember that.
Pressure's off.
To be fair, that's exactly how Baker plays.
Yeah, there you go. We got you right, Bo?
Yeah, you got both.
Yeah. I started on that one. Yep.
Okay, Reggie. Last game on Monday night. You can give us your scores and your final thoughts. We had the Vikings -1 at the Rams. The over-under is 47.5. So this is basically a pick'em game.
Right. It's interesting because are the Rams completely healthy? We got Nakua out there, and we have Cup out there.
They will be there.
Williams.
Williams.
So the one caveat to be aware of is yesterday Sam Darnold was on crutches, and you have Daniel Jones getting the start. Well, not getting the start, but getting all the first team reps. And if you can believe in Daniel Jones, then cool. But
Bo just answered this question for me. I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Because, I mean, if the guy's on crutches, if I'm getting Daniel Jones, because the thing is, we all know, I mean, at least if you watch the sport, the Rams, one of those teams, you didn't really want to see them healthy like around this time of the year. I mean, this is a Super Bowl winning franchise. Like, do you want to play them at this time? I mean, they can come out and beat you. I think they're going to need Darnold out there. Being on crutches this close is not encouraging. No way I can – Daniel Jones, no way. No way. I can't even risk Daniel Jones walking out there. No, I can't do that, man. So I'm going to have to take the Rams because I can't risk – because at least Matthew Stafford will be there. At least I know that for sure. You know what I mean? Stafford will be there. So I got to take the Rams here. I'm going to go over, though. Well, no, I can't go over if Daniel Jones is out there. I want to go over. I want to go because I feel like there will be over if Darnold is out there. I feel like there's a good chance for there to be over if Darnold is playing. But I'm going to go – oh, man. Let's go with the over and just hope Darnold plays. Let's just say that. I'm just going to hope Darnold. Because if Daniel Jones plays, that's unfortunate for the Vikings franchise, in my opinion. It's unfortunate for the year that they have had. And final thoughts is a happy 2025, ladies and gentlemen. For the rest of the year, wishing everybody that and a great start to the year this has been. See you guys next time.
All right. I'm going to be talking about Arthur Smith, Reggie.
Oh, well, yeah, I would definitely. We'll be on the text there, Dave. Believe me, I'm always available if you want to complain about Arthur Smith. My line is 24/7, my friend.
Their first down offense and their red zone offense is worse than it was last year under Matt Canada.
That's amazing.
Are you guys going to fire Arthur Smith? Or I mean, I guess let's before we run Arthur Smith out of town, let's let him coach this game. Let's see if he can produce some points this game. And he's been handing it to both of your backs, so that's already the better Arthur Smith than what we saw down here in Atlanta. So we'll take that.
Yeah, that's
see you later, guys.
That's fair.
Take care, Reggie.
All right.
Good night.
Bo?
So I'm going to go with the Rams here. because I'm assuming Darnold's going to play, but he's not going to be as mobile as he can be, right? There's no way he's going to miss this game, right? It's going to be the biggest game of his career. So I think he plays, but he's going to be hampered by some mobility issues. I go with the Rams getting the win. I also like the over here. I feel like if this goes exactly like this, we won't see Mr. Scott next week either. And then final thoughts. I echo Reg here. Happy 2025. Great to see you guys. Always fun to be a part of this. And I'll see you guys next week.
All right, Bo. Have a good one, man. Appreciate your time.
Take care, Bo. This is why they should have a 16-game season. All these players on crutches.
Right.
And if they had a 16-game season, they could have a week in between the end of the regular season and the playoffs.
Correct. Yeah.
I think it. They should have. I'm the old school guy. I want them to have more preseason games. I think they need to have more preseason games. I think guys, instead of trying to get in shape individually, I think it's a team sport, and we need to treat it as such. But I got some other things for you guys to talk about before I get off on my rant here. So, guys, before we get into our projections, let's talk about some of the other things that have taken place in the National Football League. We talked about Lamar Jackson. Dave, what's your thoughts? MVP or is it still up for grabs?
No, I agree with what Reggie was saying. I actually had Joe Burrow, and then the problem for Joe Burrow is they're not a playoff team, and it's hard to make an argument for a quarterback that can't get his team to the playoffs. But he's having a phenomenal year. He's like when you talk about MVP, he's carrying that team, and he truly is. And he doesn't have a James Cook, or he doesn't have a Saquon Barkley. But if the Bengals were in the playoffs, maybe there would be a discussion. But right now, I would say not. I mean, Lamar Jackson's numbers are just off the chart, and the team as a whole is really performing. They're a Super Bowl. I would say that a lot of people are putting money on the Ravens being in the Super Bowl.
Bill, what's your thoughts here?
As was
Lamar
mentioned,
Jackson or the field?
Yeah, as was mentioned, Lamar's having a year for the ages. I think the field deserves more consideration than it's received. And yes, I brought up the year that Goff is having. I brought up the year that Sam Darnold is having. Sam Darnold was a guy that I won a futures bet because I think 19.5 or something was the number that was set for touchdown passes. And I knew Darnold was going to blow past it. I think he ended up with 36 or something, 30. So he almost doubled the number he was expected to have. And I hammered that line when I saw before the season began that he was set at 19.5. I was like, oh, he's going to kill that. He's had a tremendous season. And if Saquon isn't sitting out, he has a very good chance to break a 40-year-old record. And because he's a running back and blah, 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 people have sort of assigned him to, yeah, you can be, offensive player of the year or whatever, most outstanding, whatever, but you can't win the MVP. This was crazy to me. But yes, Lamar should win. He has done everything that you can ask someone to do that you want to win the award. But I just would like to see people not sort of relegate. I mean, somebody mentioned Baker Mayfield a second ago. Look at the year he's had. And he just rushed for 68 yards in the last game. I think he passed for 221 and rushed for 68. He thinks he's in college again. But he's had an amazing year. And at times he's carried the Buccaneers because their once proud defense has fallen upon hard times of late for those who've been watching, which is why the number was so high for over-under on that game we were talking about versus Washington. But, yes, he's having literally a historic season. He just broke Michael Vick, who is now the head coach of my alma mater, behold the green and gold. But the fact is that we may never see this again. If we see it again, it'll probably be Lamar, right? If we ever see it again, it'll probably be Lamar doing it. But it is a historic season, and I don't see how you don't give it to him, but I do think we should not simply relegate these other amazing seasons to sort of like also Rams.
Okay. Bill, not yet quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He became the 5th player in NFL history with 500 TD passes. But Bill, is this his last TD pass as a starter?
No, he's still capable of being a starter. Now, somebody was talking about, it was Bo, was talking about how you don't want to put a quarterback who's of a certain age, who's coming off Achilles injuries behind a certain kind of offensive line. People have said this is a bottom whatever offensive line. To me, the worst I saw, and I watched them all, was the Patriots. But not too far off was the Jets offensive line. They spent a fair amount of money and draft capital on the offensive line, but you wouldn't believe it by watching them. Oh, my God, are they terrible. And he's not at the point in his career anymore where he can simply avoid sacks, right? He's at sort of like Brady at the end, where if he realizes someone's coming free, he just rolls up in a ball and lies down, or if he can't get the ball out. So he needs to be in a better situation in terms of offensive line. If for some reason the Rams don't bring back John Matthew Stafford, they might want to give a quick call to Aaron Charles Rodgers' agent. He's capable in a good situation, and the Rams are a good situation, of still playing at a super high level. His talent is, except for the mobility, is still pretty much intact. He still has one of the best arms, a great release. He still sees the field well, but he is being sped up, right, to an ungodly amount. I think there was a game where he averaged 2.21 on the ball coming out and still got hit 14 times. If you're getting the ball out in 2.21 seconds and getting hit 14 times, that tells you that your offensive line is incredibly bad. So I think he believes he can still play at a high level. And I think the NFL as a whole also still believes that. So he just needs to find a better situation.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, I think one of the things going in Aaron Rodgers' favor is the weakness of the draft at the quarterback position. They don't have a whole lot of quarterbacks in this draft, and there's going to be teams looking for free agents. So I think that he has a shot at starting again, even if maybe if he doesn't start out as a starter, he may end up as a starter with whatever team decides to draft him. And I was very skeptical about his ability to complete a season off of the Achilles, and he did it. He managed to do it, and he got sacked 40 times, and he was still playing. So he showed that he was able to play through that Achilles, and there might be another team that'll take a shot at him in the free agent market.
Okay, Dave. Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores says he will take every interview requested. Do you think that he'll be back with the Vikings next year, or do you think he'll be back in another head coaching job?
Yeah, I haven't heard any teams announce that they were interviewing him yet, and that kind of surprises me. Arthur Smith has the Jets and the Bears that have announced that they're going to interview him. Now, what was a little bit concerning is that Ryan Fitzpatrick really came out and said some things, basically said that he was a dictator. He became a dictator when he was the coach of Miami, and said some very disparaging things about Brian Flores as a head coach, and he kind of changed. Now, he did spend a year in Pittsburgh, and maybe he saw the way Mike Tomlin coaches, and maybe some of that rubbed off on him, where other teams, because what people forget is that he was radioactive before Pittsburgh hired him. No team would touch him because of his lawsuit. and
Right.
Pittsburgh did hire him, but also he got to see a different style of coaching, and he the players and the other coaches all said he contributed to both the offense and the defense while he was in Pittsburgh, and he left in very good stead. And he's done a great job in Minnesota as a defensive coordinator. It's just like what Fitzpatrick had to say about him was like, wow. I was kind of shocked by that, but I think that other teams would be foolish not to at least to give him an interview, because I think he has the talent to be a very good head coach. And there's a lot of Steelers fans that wish, hey, we should have kept him as a defensive coordinator, but that would have meant breaking the contract with Terrell Austin. But and if he doesn't get, I don't think he's going to leave Minnesota unless it's for another head coaching job.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, B-Flow, right, as he's known amongst the profession, has been known since his days in New England as one of the smartest, but also he's a tough guy, right? He was a tough guy as a player. I watched him play in his days as a linebacker at Boston College. He's been a tough guy, and he's a tough guy. I mean, this is the whole problem that Eric Bieniemy also sort of had, is that he's not one of those love him up kind of coaches. That's not his style. And it's funny, I guess it shows the changing face of the NFL. Can you imagine somebody, saying, oh, Coach Lombardi is kind of a dictator, Coach Landry doesn't listen to our suggestions. He doesn't really allow us to be ourselves. Like, it shows you how much the game has changed. That's now a legitimate criticism of a head coach in the NFL, is that he's dictatorial. When
I think where you saw the transition was Tom Coughlin. He transitioned from a time where you could be one of these disciplinarian coaches to a time where the players no longer accepted him. He's the example of where he experienced that.
Right. And he eventually talked to the leadership council or whatever you call it, including Strahan and others while he was in New York, and loosened the grip on the reins a little bit, with the whole if you're not at least 6 minutes early, you're late thing. But the fact is that people who coach you hard, there's still a place for that, I believe. But I think his time seeing how Mike Tomlin relates to players. I mean, remember, he won with the Dolphins, and the Dolphins roster wasn't anywhere as good as the one that we have now. And he was getting them to 9-10 win seasons. But the issue was that, he was a hard ass. And he had basically a duel with the general manager, with Chris Greer, over Tua. And it was sort of like a mutually assured destruction thing. And, the guys eventually, Chris Greer remembered, oh, wait, I outrank you. And so you've got to go. So, yes, he left under not the greatest of terms. He did do things that undermined the confidence of his young quarterback, because that wasn't the guy he wanted. But I think he has learned from the experiences, but he's a brilliant football mind. And he's one of the guys that people talk to anybody around the NFL. He could literally go walk the other side of the hall and be an offensive coordinator. Everyone who's been around him will tell you he knows football, period. He could run your special teams. He could run your offense. He could run your defense. There's not a football job in coaching that Brian Flores couldn't do. He is one of the smartest people, football smartest people in the game. Everybody who knows football knows that about Brian Flores. The question is, can he deal with the modern football player's personality? I believe he can. I think he's an adaptable person. I think that he's going to absolutely kill it wherever he lands. And if you're the Titans, if you don't at least give him an interview, but if he comes in the building, you probably shouldn't let him leave. Because you look at how they won with Vrabel. And he's essentially, he's off of the same coaching tree, but he's a smarter guy. I mean, no offense to Vrabel, but Vrabel was essentially once again, kind of a tough guy, right? But, with a sense of humor and whatever, but a tough guy. But he didn't know both sides of the ball at the level that Flores does. So you're going to get essentially someone that gives you a lot of what you got from Vrabel, the off the Belichick tree and all that good stuff, and toughness and defense, but with a more energetic and smarter guy bringing it to you. So I think he's almost like a slam dunk hire if the Titans get a chance to hire him.
Okay. Bill, the Pats, they fired Gerard Mayo after one season. The Raiders, they fired Antonio Pierce after one season. Bill, pick your poison.
I mean, formaldehyde, strychnine. I mean, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be choosing between. You mean like which job would I take if they were both available?
No, which coach do you think was most unfairly let go?
Well, I mean, the most unfairly is Mayo because he got less than a whole season to to show what he could do. Really, at least Pierce got part of one season as an interim, and then essentially all of the following season. I truly believe that the Raiders' troubles are bigger than a single man, but I also understand them wanting to move in a different direction. They probably want to find more of a X's and O's guru type. I think they also will attempt to throw their hat into the Ben Johnson ring. I don't think he's going there, but I know that they'll be interested in him. Frankly, they should interview Pep Hamilton also while they're at it. I don't know if they will, but they should. But they're not the smartest organization in the world, but if they were smart, they would bring Pep Hamilton in and a few others. I wonder what happened to Dave Tobe. Remember when Dave Tobe was a sort of hot name at one point? He's still a great coach. And he's a guy that started out as a strength coach. He knows football, too. He could probably coach anywhere, but he's been a great defensive coordinator for many years. And we saw what happened to Harbaugh, right, with a similar background in the career that John Harbaugh has had. I wonder why the shine went off Dave Tobe. And I guess everyone's out on Eric Bieniemy now. But that's a guy I still believe knows how to coach football. He's just, once again, a tough guy, kind of a hard ass, and you've got to have the right team culture to deal with somebody who coaches hard. But some people are not getting interviews that should. Leslie Frazier should be getting interviews. I don't know why he isn't getting more love. But yes, I think both guys got somewhat of a raw deal, but Mayo even more. That's a terrible roster. That's the worst roster in the NFL that he was saddled with. Their best receiver people was a guy named Demario Pop Douglas from Liberty, who was a day 3 draft pick. And he would be the wide receiver 3 if he's in Philadelphia, right? He's the wide receiver 3 or 4 if he's in Los Angeles. Like all the good teams, like he's wide receiver 4 if he's in even the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, and he'd be their 4th wide receiver. He's the best wide receiver that New England has. Their offensive line is as bad as the Jets is, but saving them from having the worst offensive line is the Patriots. And shout out to Drake Lee May, who was one of the top 3 rookie quarterbacks this season, despite having essentially no one to throw to and no offensive line. That guy, go back and watch the tape. That kid is playing at a super high level. If they improve that team even a little bit around him, he's going to be playing Joe Burrow level football. He has that kind of talent, but man, is that team bad. I think that their front office and their talent evaluation is a real issue in New England. And firing Gerard Mayo, I don't know if that's going to be enough to fix it. They have been bad at drafting for a while. And that was really what eventually got Belichick out of there. When he lost Pioli and Dimitrov and all those guys, right? He had all these great young talent evaluators that help. People forget that people once again, just like with quarterbacks, they give too much credit to the head coach. Head coaches are important, don't get me wrong, but if you've got a bad front office, I don't care if your offensive line coach is Vince Lombardi and your quarterback coach is Bill Walsh and you've got Belichick as your D coordinator. It wouldn't matter if you had literally all the Hall of Fame coaches on your staff. If you have bad talent, you're not going to win. And so, yeah, Mayo got the raw of the 2 deals.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, no, I actually think Pierce really had the team rally around him when he came in as an interim coach. And, the Raiders lost a lot of players this year, including a lot of the players that had rallied around him the previous year. So I think he lost part of his base. But in the case of Jared Mayo, I think that the Patriots had done Mayo a disservice when they made him a head coach. He was completely unqualified. The guy had spent 5 years as an inside linebackers coach. He wasn't even coaching all the linebackers. Right. He was an inside linebackers coach, and that's it. He had no other coaching experience. And I had said this when they first hired him. They did him a disservice by putting him in that position. He was not ready to be a head coach. And yeah, they did not have a very good team, but I think that Robert Kraft, I think, and he wrote a nice letter explaining why he was moving on from Jared Mayo and wishing him all the best, and saying, that he really admired him. But Bill's talking about their lack of talent. Well, they did a really bad talent search in looking for a head coach. And I think that they had to correct a mistake. They hired an inexperienced guy or an unqualified guy, and now they're correcting that mistake. And, I think Antonio Pierce had a much better background. He did have some experience as a coordinator. He did have some partial head coaching experience. I think it was in college. He was like a co-head coach or something like that. But he had a much rounder background than Jared Mayo. So I would expect Antonio Pierce to maybe be a candidate around the league for a head coaching position. I would not expect Jared Mayo to be a viable head coach candidate. What he needs to do is he needs to build his resume, maybe get a defensive coordinator position somewhere, or even going back to being a position coach and then a defensive coordinator and then a head coach. And, that's just my view. I just think that he was unqualified for the position.
Okay. See, before we get you guys to make your predictions, couple questions here. Bill, the Chiefs, they set out most of their relevant players, and of course, Denver made it into the playoffs. But Bill, what do you think are the chances of three-peat?
I mean, 12.5%. It's just so hard to do. But what gives them a chance? One is obviously they've done this before. They've sort of stumbled into the playoffs and then get in the playoffs, and then we're like, that's why the Chiefs are so good. We forgot that they know how to turn it on. Speaking of guys who were great defense coordinators, Steve Spagnuolo is one of the great defense coordinators in the history of the game, and what people should have probably known that years ago with what he did with the Giants in New York, but we're seeing it again, right? What he did in Los Angeles and now what he's doing in Kansas City. He is a tremendous defensive coordinator, and they do have talent, right? They've spent a fair amount of time and money and draft capital on that defense, and it's a very good one. And while they aren't as explosive on offense, they're middle of the pack offense, and in some cases even below the middle of the pack in some offensive metrics this year. They struggle with they don't get a lot of explosive plays. They're the opposite of the team they were, when they first started winning Super Bowls in terms of that. But they are great at sustaining drives. They are number one in the league in converting on third down. They're number 2 in the league in time of possession. So they wear on you. They keep your defense on the field. And then Mahomes makes that magical play late in the fourth quarter, and you go home losing. So they do have a puncher's chance, as people say, but they're not the most talented team, right? There are teams but we talked about other teams that have more talent, and they're probably in the top 6 in terms of talent on the roster, but they're not number 1. But they know what to do, how to do it. They won't panic. They won't blink. So if they make it to a AFC championship game, I like their chances, right? If they make it to an AFC championship, I like their chances. I feel like they just have to make it to that. I feel like they'll get knocked out quickly, or they'll win the Super Bowl. It'll be one or the other. I don't feel like they're going to make it to the AFC Championship game and then lose. That's what I'll say about that.
Okay, Dave. Steelers back into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak. Let's talk about will Russell Wilson be back next year? Pickens, and what are we going to do about that offensive line?
Well, I attended. I was sick most of December, but I got well enough to go up for the finale. And man, what a disappointing game. And you're right, the offense is really stinking up the joint. People are very frustrated with the offensive scheme. There's already talk about, Arthur Smith may be outdoing Matt Canada in terms of ineptitude. Russell, right now they don't have a quarterback signed for next year. Yep. And, this 4-game losing streak, before this 4-game losing streak, all indications is that they would bring Russell Wilson back. And Justin Fields even indicated that he wanted to come back. And there was some talk about, well, hey, could Omar Khan somehow sign both of them? And I don't see how, but, you never know. They have around $53 million in cap space to play with.
But is Denver still paying Russ?
What's that?
Year? Isn't Denver still paying Russ?
This year. But for next year, they were looking at how much would they have to pay him. Is it going to be $30 million, whatever. But I think, now a lot depends what happens in this wild card game. And as Baltimore identified, is that Russell Wilson, he either throws the moon ball or he dumps it off. He doesn't have any middle game. He doesn't throw into the middle of the field or across the middle, and maybe possibly because of his height. It might be line of sight issues. But and he's thrown a couple costly interceptions late, where all season long the formula for Pittsburgh's success has been winning the takeaway battle. But George Pickens, he had come back off of a hamstring injury. He needed 100 yards to hit 1,000, and he had 1 catch for 0 yards, and he had a number of bad drops. And as bad as Pittsburgh played, they had a shot at winning the game, and it wasn't the greatest pass, but it was a catchable ball that Pickens didn't bring in. And if he had caught the ball, it would have been a chip shot for Boswell to steal the victory. Pittsburgh's defense is playing they played well enough to win. They held the Bengals to 19 points. Burrow had 3 or more touchdown passes in 8 or 9 straight games, and he only had 1 touchdown pass. They only had 1 touchdown at all in the entire game. So the question with George Pickens, future-wise, if you're talking about the future, is, well, do they try to sign him to an extension? But at least among the fan base, there's concerns that he might be an issue. And everybody knew that he was an issue whenever he was drafted. And so that's a decision that Pittsburgh's going to have to make in the offseason. Do we try to extend the guy? Because if they don't extend him, well, then he's going to be on his free agent year next year. And then what kind of shenanigans are going to be played during a season where he's just waiting to leave the team? So not sure what's going to happen. Now, I've also read articles where he's a great teammate and good in practice, and that the other players like him. So
they like Antonio Brown too.
Well, yeah. Well, the difference between George Pickens and Antonio Brown is that
About
nobody
$8 million
outworked
a year.
Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was the hardest working player
Yeah.
that I've ever seen. I mean, he,
Yep.
he would be the first one on the field, last one off.
Yep.
He would be at the jugs machine after practice, not catching 10 or 20,
Hundreds.
but upwards of 100 passes off of the jugs machines after everybody else was inside the locker room. So he's not an Antonio Brown. He's not the talent that Antonio Brown is. I liken him more to a Martavius Bryant. He has freakish athletic talent, but unfortunately, other players from other teams can get under his skin. He's very emotional. And the way that Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin have described it is like they like the emotion because it means he cares. He's vested in the outcome. But they've been trying to get him to challenge that emotion into positive results. Rather than getting into a scrap with another player or just thinking about what just happened. And so already Baltimore, they have a video out talking about, the Cologne video. And, they're already trying to get under George Pickens' skins. That's what other teams, hey, they know that's what we have to do. So that's the tough thing. And if you're talking about Pittsburgh in the future, they got a lot of stuff going on. Najee Harris is going to be a free agent. And so, there's a chance he could be gone, better than low chance that he could be gone. And George Pickens, he'll be back. But the question is do they sign him under an extension, and who's going to be the quarterback? And that's a complete unknown right now. So, that's where the team is. And then the other problem that they have is how long can they keep this defense together? Cam Hayward's 35, TJ's getting older. They're paying like $128 million on the defensive side of the ball. And how long can they keep that talented of a defense on there? Now, they got some young players coming up, and you mentioned the offensive line. Well, one of the bright spots is you got two guys that made the all-rookie team, Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick, center and guard. They had the potential of being linchpins of that offensive line for several years now, and did credible jobs as rookies. They didn't have all pro seasons, but as rookies, they were credible. Broderick Jones, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Dan Moore is probably gone. He's going to be a free agent. And then he had been the best lineman. And then all of a sudden, the last 4 or 5 games just fell apart and it was being exposed. And so chances are that he's gone into the free agent market. And then maybe they try to put Broderick Jones, and then they'll get Troy Fautano off of injured reserve. And maybe those will be the 2 tackles. But there's concerns about Broderick Jones' development, whether he's developing quick enough to be a contributor.
Yeah. Definitely agree. And lastly, before we get to the scores, Bill, after watching that championship game, NFC North, basically the championship game, are the Lions the best team in the NFC?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, good one. Demetrius would be proud. All right, guys. Let's get into these scores here for the first round of the playoffs. Saturday, as I was saying, we had the Chargers -3 playing the Texans. Over under is 42.5. I am taking the Chargers in this one. but I'm also going to take the over. Bill?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers. I was tempted to take the under, but I feel like there'll be like a late garbage time score to push that to the over. So yeah, I will take the Chargers and I'll take the over.
Dave?
Yeah, and first of all, hey, mea culpa. I missed those last few sessions that we had, so I was not keeping track of the regular season over and unders, but I will do it during the playoffs. I just was really sick, and I was not much use to anybody the last 3 weeks of December. But on the I think the Texans have not been doing well. I've got to go with the Chargers, and I think I will go with the over though on that one.
Okay. Next game, of course, Dave, we had the Steelers getting 9.5, playing at the Ravens. The over-under is 43.5.
Wow. Pittsburgh's fairly healthy going into this game, and they may have Dante Jackson back, which really hurt him in the last game. He's been having I think like a pinched nerve or something in his lower back, but he's been practicing. And I've heard up to 10 points that Baltimore's been getting. But I'm still going to take.
I got these odds today were from ESPN. Usually I get it from DraftKings.
Yeah, but I'm going to go with Pittsburgh at least to cover. With the 9.5 points, and there's the potential for snow. So if that I'm going to go with the under, despite Baltimore having an explosive offense. But if there's bad weather, it might be it could be a 21-17 type game. I'm gonna go with the under in this case.
Okay. I'm gonna take the points, of course. But I think this is going to be a relatively close game in the sense either weather might play, like you say, Dave, weather might play a part. So I'm going to take the Steelers with the points, but I'm going to take the under also. Bill?
Yeah, well, so the biggest injury news for the Steelers, of course, the aforementioned rookie Rayson McCormick, who's got a broken hand. He's going to try to play through it. Obviously, when you have to try to grip a football or grip anything with a broken hand, but he's going to have some sort of brace on his hand, try to tough through it. Zay Flowers is not able to practice for the Ravens, and I would say it's likely he doesn't play. I think Hamilton will play. But, yeah, I think it should be – it was a tight game. As poorly as the Steelers played, and I don't think the Steelers will play that poorly again. I think that, especially since they had some of the same issues that have been mentioned will be attacked by the Ravens, they are smart enough to know essentially what the Ravens are going to try to do to them. You're going to send a lot, hopefully run blitz a lot, send people to try to disrupt Henry and or the mesh, right? Either Henry or Lamar before they can get going. I think it'll be a tight, low-scoring game. I think this game is the game that goes under. But, yeah, the Ravens probably went outright, but I don't think they're going to win by 9.5 or 10 now.
Sunday, Bill, the Broncos will be playing the Bills. The Broncos are getting 8.5 points. And the over-under is 46.5.
This game could end up being a shootout. Well, Denver has a really good defense, though. I'm torn on I have to think about the over-under a lot. I'll come back to that. I'll start with I feel like the Broncos are going to really give the Bills a tough time. I feel like this might be the game where the old Josh Allen shows up a little bit. They get down 10 points in the third quarter, and he presses, maybe throws a bad interception. I think they'll manage to fight through it and come out with a close win, but I think they win this game by 3 or 4 points. I think that 8.5 is like giving away money. Once again, maybe you touch grandma's insulin money for this one. And Bo Nix, because he is a guy that can, hurt you running as well as, obviously throwing the ball down the field. Cortland Sutton's hot. I feel like it's going to be a really tight game, and Buffalo's defense isn't what it used to be. So over-under is right. It's right about right. I'm going to say that 47 wins this game. I think that it's like a 24-23 kind of game. Yeah, I'll go over, but I don't like it.
And who'd you pick to win?
Well, I said that it's going to be a tight game, but I think I said Denver gives them a tough game. I think the Bills pull it out, but I think they're going to be, like I said, this is going to be a 1, 2, 3 point game. I don't think it's anything like an 8.5 point game because once again, the Bills defense is not all that now. So they're going to pull it out, but it's going to be ugly.
Okay.
They do not cover or even come close.
Yeah, I'm going to take the points with the Broncos, and I think it's going to be under. I think both of these teams play in bad weather, so I don't think the weather is going to be that much a factor as far as the players are concerned. But I think 46.5. Dave, I'm just going to go according to I always see that picture of you in Buffalo when I think of Buffalo now. So I'm going for the under here, but I'm going to take the Broncos in the under. Dave?
Well, they may get snow on Saturday, but it looks like it's going to be clear on Sunday. So
a clear 20 below in Buffalo.
Contrarian. Everybody has Denver, and I agree with everybody. I think that Denver's a scrappy team, but just to be a contrarian, I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Okay.
And I'm going to take the Buffalo can score some points, but I'm going to go with the under.
Okay. Dave, we have the Packers getting 4.5 at the Eagles. The over-under is 44.5. Again, both teams are used to playing in the cold weather. I'm not sure what the weather is going to be like, but we do maybe have an issue with Jordan Love. What's your thoughts here, Dave?
Yeah, it sounds like Green Bay is a little bit banged up, and Philadelphia is a very physical game. I mean, I watched the game, and the Steelers-Eagles game, the Eagles dominated Pittsburgh, but it was a very, very physical game, but both sides. Saquon Barkley couldn't finish the game.
Right.
And but the Eagles are very, very physical. I mean, Pittsburgh came out of that black and blue, and that hurt them for the rest for the Chiefs game. So I think I'm going to go with Philadelphia, and with Love hurt. I mean, for me, Green Bay it's kind of like Miami. If Tua was healthy, Miami was a viable team. Without Tua, Miami wasn't viable. And I tend to think the same with Green Bay. They depend on Love. And if he's banged up, I'm going to go with the that's kind of low. I'm going to go with the over, but I think it's going to be one of these things of where it's more from the Philadelphia scoring on Green Bay. And it's not going to be over by much.
I like the Eagles in the over too. There, Dave. Bill.
I too like the Eagles in the over, and I think even if Love plays, I think Jair Alexander is still out, and like I said, Christian Watson just tore his ACL, so they're missing a couple of really sort of key players, and the timing, is not great. And the Eagles can beat you more than one way. They have a really dynamic running attack, and they don't have that great third receiver. Well, that great third receiver is their tight end, I guess. But they have one of the best 1-2 punches at wide receiver anywhere, right up there with the Bengals, whoever else you want to throw out, and the Rams. But I just feel like, as you said, what they can do in terms of being able to lean on you physically. Philadelphia is one of the hardest places to play football ever invented. Like, even when the Eagles aren't particularly good, it's tough to play in Philadelphia. And the Eagles, I think the Eagles feel like people are sleeping on them. I think that they're on kind of a revenge run or whatever. I think they feel disrespected. Whether it's real or invented, they feel that way. And yeah, I feel like they're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. I feel like this is going to be a big year for the Eagles.
Okay. Bill, and what I think might be the best matchup of the day, we have the Commanders getting 3 points, playing at the Bucks, and the over-under is 50.5.
Right, and kind of deservedly so. These are two teams that can score in bunches. With the emergence of Jalen McMillan, they now have in Tampa Bay a really, really well-balanced passing attack, right? They don't get a tremendous amount from the tight end position, but their wide receivers and running backs all catch the ball well. Rashid White is a really good catcher of the ball. Urban is maybe not quite as developed as White as a route runner, but he has really good hands. Mike Evans is a future, I don't know, maybe a first ballot, but he probably should be, but he's going to be a Hall of Famer, quite obviously. He's off to one of the great careers in the history of the game. And I don't want to victory lap too much, but I've been a Baker Reagan Mayfield guy since his days at Texas Tech. And a lot of people bailed on him during his time in Cleveland, and then he's bouncing around as sort of a bridge quarterback. And I always knew he had this ability. I always knew he had this talent. And to see him show people, I mean, he's a really tough, talented guy. He can run. He has a strong arm. He's essentially a bigger, stronger version and cockier version of Drew Brees, right, in a lot of ways. And now he's in a situation where he has to show that. I feel like this is probably, it for Tampa Bay, but I think they managed to squeak out a high-scoring victory here. But the line is 3.5, or is it 3?
3.
Okay. I think they can cover 3. If it's 3.5, I was going to have to go Commanders. I think they can cover 3. I think it is. I think 3 is it. It's going to be a push, I guess, but I think they win the game by exactly 3.
Over under?
50. That's a big number. So if it's 28-24, that's 52, right? So as frightening as it is, I will take the over. I think it ends up being a shootout.
Dave?
Yeah, I really like Baker Mayfield. I thought he's always been real competitive, but they lost a couple close games. They managed to have a number of games that were really close, and Tampa Bay came on the short end where Washington just had some phenomenal games. They had the one game where the ball bounced into the end zone and their guy was like right there to catch the Hail Mary pass, while the guy that should have been back there covering them was sitting there woofing at the fans.
Tyree Stevenson. Yeah.
And they had a couple close games. It's kind of like Kansas City. Kansas City had like 9 or 10 one-score games and came out on top on all of them.
Yep.
And the Commanders have been that way. So I'm saying I agree with Reggie. I think it's going to be a shootout, but I think that Washington is going to come out on top. So I'm going to take the Washington in the over because I think it could be a shootout. And it just seems that there's some seasons where teams just seem to have the destiny. The bounces go their way, and that seems to be what Washington has been. So that's what I'm going to go with.
I'm going to take the Bucks and the under. And our Monday game, the Vikings -1, basically a pick-up game. I like the Rams in this game. I'm going to take the Rams, and I don't know. I watched Detroit hold the Vikings to 9 points. I'm going to take the Rams and the under. Dave, well, let's start with Bill. Give us your score and your final thoughts.
Okay. So, and the line was, you said how many again? Three?
The one. It's a pick-up game. A pick-up game.
Oh, wow. That is a big okay.
The Vikings -1 at the Rams. Over under is 47.5.
Okay. I will take the under. I think it's 47. I think it's a 47-point game. So just barely taking the under. And I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think that now Sean McVay has sort of owned, in the short time that they've both been head coaches, has sort of owned his old staff mate Kevin O'Connell. But I think that changes this year. I think they learned some things from that rather humiliating defeat. I think they just play much better. I think they're going to have a big bounce back. Still, the Rams are so smart as a team. They're one of the most intelligent teams, right? Their players at all positions are so smart. Like you rarely see dumb mistakes. When they get beaten, it's usually because they're not the other players better, or something got schemed up that took advantage of the fact that they're a little predictable at times. Because the one thing about smart teams is they do the right thing, right? And you can sometimes use that against them because they're going to do the right thing. Because they're going to be in the right place. But I think it's a tight game. Obviously, I mean, it's going to be right. It's a pickup. I agree that it's going to be, but I think that the Vikings get maybe like a late field goal or a blocked tip ball or interception, something that just turns it for them. But yeah, it's going to be a tight game.
So you got the Vikings, and did you say
just barely the under? Yeah, I think 47.5. I think it ends up being a 47-point game, like 24-23 or something like that. I think it's that kind of game, but I think they just end up just under the number at 47.
Okay. And your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, and on this day in 1972, so all of us here would remember that. I was just beginning to watch college football, but they declared that season, freshmen without any sort of special waiver or anything else would be allowed eligibility to play college football. And for those who are below a certain age, that may not mean anything, right? There are people who don't remember the old days of freshman teams and freshman football and things like that. Roger Staubach and others, were playing freshman ball their freshman year prior to that year, right? So all of the records, when people talk about a lot of the records that have been set post that year, I mean, not just put an asterisk beside them, but realize that guys used to have 3 years of eligibility. Now, guys didn't leave early as much in those days, so maybe it balances out that the top players would play their sophomore, junior, and senior years. But think of all the great players that literally only had 3 years of varsity eligibility prior to that, with the exception being like World War II and things like that. There were a few times that they would give special waivers for freshmen to be eligible. But other than that World War II time and a few other very special occasions, players were expected that first year, because of the student athlete thing, to just work on being students, right? Settle into being a college student, blah, blah, blah. And then the next year, you'll play a little freshman ball, 6 to 8 games against local high schools and junior colleges and trade schools and, the local plumbers union team or whatever it was back in the day. And then, like I said, it all changed in 72. And so fall of 72, which was, for me, a big year because that was my first full year of watching college football. It was also the first year of freshman eligibility. So for all those that are, begrudging the current state of college football, I think some of that began to change in 1972 when they allowed freshmen, you just arrived, you just graduated from high school a few months ago. Now you can play varsity college football at the highest or whatever level just right out of the box. And that was the first year that was across the board done. That's my final thought.
All right. Dave, your predictions and your final thoughts. Tell Sue we're all glad to have Sue's Corner back as a part of our show.
Yes.
And, we thank her so much for being so indulgent as to take care of you during your illness. I know how us men can get when we're sick. It's like we revert back to our childhood.
Exactly.
so we want to send a special shout out to Sue.
All right. Well, and I'll pass it on, and you hit it on the head. And she was mothering me. She was taking care of me. Yeah, I'm gonna. The Rams beat Minnesota earlier in the year, and then they had a long streak of wins. But I think Minnesota is going to come back. I think that they're a scrappy team, and I think that they're going to come back to take it, despite them getting pummeled by Detroit at the end of the year. I think Minnesota is going to come back, but I'm going to take the under in this case. Because in order for them to do it, especially if Sam Darnold is hobbled, it may have to be a defensive struggle. So that's that pick. For my final thoughts, first of all, I hope that, we're getting into 2025. I hope everybody's 2025 looks bright and that everybody has good fortune in 2025 and things move forward. But the thing I also want to talk about on the other side, that's the positive side of the coin, but I want to talk about the fickleness of the fans, in particular the Pittsburgh Steelers fans. At the beginning of the year, the Steelers were picked to finish last in the AFC North by most pundits. Their over-under was 8.5 wins, which was the lowest in the AFC North. Their wide receiver room, other than George Pickens, was very little talent in the wide receiver room. Russell Wilson was hurt, and everybody knew that they had to stack wins because they had a brutal schedule. And so they knew in order for them to have any shot, they had to stack wins at the beginning of the season, because people knew that they were going to lose some of these games, playing 3 games in 11 days, playing Baltimore, then playing Philadelphia, and then playing the Chiefs, where Baltimore also had a similar schedule, but they're playing like the Giants. And plus, their bye week was right before that brutal stretch where the Steelers were sometime before. And Baltimore had the most rest days between games than any other team in the NFL. And I think that Pittsburgh actually performed above expectations to get into the playoffs. I think that there are other teams that have a lot more talent. You saw that when they played the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Ravens. Those were more talented teams than the Steelers, but the Steelers are still in it, and they're going to the playoffs. And despite, most teams, most fan bases, if their team made it to the playoffs after they were predicted to finish last in their division, you would think that they would be ecstatic. And there's a sizable portion of the Steelers fan base that right now, with a playoff game coming up, are rooting for Mike Tomlin to be fired. And it's like, well, how's that helping the team? And you know, they said, well, you know, he's underperformed. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016 or whenever it was. But that was then. You know, each season is its own entity, and right now, if they upset Baltimore, I wonder how they're going to feel. Whether they're still going to feel that the guy should be fired. You know, because by the statements of not only Steelers players, but from players around the league, he's a coach that players want to play for. And like we were talking about a little bit earlier when we were talking about the disciplinarian coaches, well, this is a new culture that coaches are having to deal with where the players have a lot more power than they had even 10 or 15 years ago. And now players can kind of choose, like Tyreek Hill. Hey, I want to move. Well, 10 or 15 years ago, you didn't have that kind of ability to almost say, hey, I'm ready to move on, and then almost to hand select the team that they're going to. It's almost becoming like whenever Miami formed that dream team in Miami. And I think that it's more than ever more important to have a coach that players can relate to. And the thing is the reason that the players relate to Mike Tomlin isn't because it's just like a nice guy and he lets them do whatever that they want. The reason they cite is because he's so honest to them, and he'll tell them when they're not doing a good job or when they're doing a nice job. And I think it was one of their free agents this year. I forget if it was Dante Jackson or which player, but basically said that Mike Tomlin was the most honest coach that he's ever had in the NFL. And that says a lot. I mean, because he's literally throwing his previous coaches under the bus because those coaches were telling him what he wanted to hear. And he's saying that, no, Mike Tomlin is telling me what I need to hear. And I think that that's what a lot of these quote Steeler fans unquote don't understand. And I hope Baltimore could blow Pittsburgh out this weekend. They're a very loaded team right now, and they're riding the momentum. But I still feel, regardless of the result, that Mike Tomlin is a great coach, and he should remain with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I just wish that the fans would kind of put things into better context. So those are my final words for tonight.
Yeah, we had beat the Ravens 8 out of 10 games up until the last time that they this last game that they won. So it's not like we don't know how to play the Ravens. So
right,
it's very possible for the upset, and they might take that 9.5 point differential as bulletin board material. So we never can tell. Another quick announcement: Demetrius beat Bill for the Sports Crib title and the fantasy T-shirt. Demetrius is our first back-to-back winner. He won last year. So the fantasy shirt will be going out to Demetrius probably sometime next week. So, thanks everyone. We look forward to having everybody next week, and we invite everybody back to the Sports Crib for 2025, and thank everybody for listening to our first show of the new year. Have a good rest of the week, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night, guys.
All right, take care.
Good to be back. Glad you're feeling better, Dave.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was not didn't have a fun December, that's for sure.